everyone. It's Krista, your host of K Talks, and I am here today with another podcast episode. And today I have a wonderful guest, Gregory Giagnocavo. Thank you so much, Gregory, for being on my show today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, doing good. Glad to be here.
Great. Well, Gregory, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, what I do, um, I've had various businesses. So when I was younger, I decided I never wanted to work for anybody. We can get into that later, but the idea of starting your own business always intrigued me. And so from my early 20s, really, I have never had a job since that, and I've created my own job. So I got into real estate development, and that got very big very fast. Borrowed $50 million in the first few years. Got in real estate development. Then I saw the internet coming, and I got into technology. I was on the internet, one of the first guys. So I built an internet company. And then I couldn't get internet, so I built my own internet access provider. And that eventually went public, and that got sold to Earthland. And then I got into telecom. I got into publishing. First, publishing about the internet. So we became the largest publisher of educational materials for K-12 schools in the United States. Classroom Connect, and so that became big, and that got sold off to a venture capital company. Then I got into a telecom. Well, I took a number of years off, took like 7 years off after selling that. Didn't have to work anymore, but I got back into telecom with my son to get my son involved with me, and he's a big tech guy, and so I got my sons involved, and I invented this software that connects telephones that, like Skype, like internet telephones, it connects them to 911 emergency centers. You couldn't connect them before, so I invented that piece. That got sold off. And then I got involved in telecom itself, selling telephone numbers and connecting switches and telecom around the world. Sold one of those, that got sold off. And I started another one, and now I'm still involved in that to some extent. So it's been technology the last while.
Wow. So that's such an amazing story. Were you always entrepreneurial? I mean, you said that from an early age, you had that first decision. I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself. When did that really start, though? I mean, as a younger child or as a teen, were you thinking about, oh, I need to go to college and I want to become a fireman, and then later I want to become a lawyer? Or was it always kind of like, I want to invent things?
I think I did want to become a lawyer for a while. I got accepted into Lehigh University, which is a technical engineering school. It was a chemical engineering. But I worked for my father. He had me working for him since I was like 7. I had to bottle kerosene and do all kinds of dangerous things, and my mother was mad about that. And so working for my father, very hard taskmaster, had a successful business, but very hard to work with, to put it mildly. And so as I was getting into my teens and having to work all the time and never allowed to go to school functions and never allowed to go to football games, it was really, really hard. And so I'd get up at 5:30 in the morning to start the machines, go to school, come back, do work factory till 9 o'clock. And I thought, I am not going to live this way. I am not going to work for someone else, even if it's my father, to dictate what you have to do all the time. And so from probably around age 13, I became suicidal. So 13, 14, and 15, the miracle I made it, it was very suicidal years. And then at 16, I started to think, I could start my own business one day. And then I had a dream. And this dream was that I was going to marry this blonde girl and have these children, and I was going to have a blonde daughter, and everything was going to be fine. We were going to have new cars. I was going to live in big houses all by, like, my own houses. And somehow that had a calming effect on me when I was 16. I thought, if I can only make it, I'll get out of here in 3 or 4 years. And that's what happened. And so even then, around 17, I created a little photo business that developed photos for the neighbors. And I was always like inventing little things. But didn't really start in earnest until I went to university for marketing. Then when I got out, I got into my own accounting firm. And that was really a springboard to be in an accounting firm with some really good people. In fact, one of the guys I still work with, and it's been a lot of years later, that they said, well, we're not really that busy, but if you could help us get some clients, then as soon as we get enough clients, you can come inside and be the inside accountant with us, because I knew accounting. And we got so many clients so quickly, it swamped them. And so then I came inside, the company got kind of big. And that's when I thought, I can always, through my own spark, I can create things. And I had early confidence level. Even as a teenager, I was very confident that I would create my own thing somehow. and I wouldn't be held to a job.
That is so inspiring for so many people. Times have changed, though. I think what's harder now in 2019 for young people is probably figuring out what they want to do, because there's just so much more available now, so much information overload. And also, it's hard to figure out what's legit from what's not. I mean, we're bombarded with ads of people saying, oh, quit your 9 to 5 or don't go to college because you can get rich quick. And they have like a Lamborghini in the background, and they're saying, buy my method or whatever, and I'll teach you how to become wealthy. What do you think of all that? I mean, what would you advise a young person listening to this, who, because you're a legit businessman and you've really made it by your own hard work, um, how do you think a young person should go about life if they want to follow a path like you have?
Well, you're right about that. They're being bombarded left and right, down the center, 24/7. It wasn't quite like that many years ago, but there still was that. There were still these ads that you could send in $10 and learn how to make money. And what they would tell you is to run ads like that ad. It's just like the fun people make fun of selling a course to teach you how to make a course to sell courses to sell courses. Well,
Mm.
that existed years and years ago. Those ads ran in all the back of the boys' magazines and the women's magazines. So in a sense, that was still a temptation, or something enticing years ago. The thing that I think is actually better now is that there are a lot more options. In the back in those days, you really didn't have many options. You were either going to work for some local business, you were going to go to California. We were on the East Coast, so everybody went out west to seek their fame and fortune, be a movie star. You were going to or go to something that your parents or your parents' friends went to university for. If your father was a lawyer,
Hmm.
be that kind of thing. I think it's much nicer life now. There was no such thing as a laptop lifestyle back in those days. So I think that what a person still has is the same personal decisions, though, that you had years ago, and that is, what is it that makes me excited? People say follow your passion. I think it's a little fuzzy, but what do you like to do? I mean, if you really like to groom pets, and I've met people. I used to develop real estate, and I would meet a lot of people with their own small businesses. It was almost 80% of our space was always rented to people with small businesses, and I get to talk to them. And if you really want to groom pets, and your friends are making $1 million a year doing something else, but you really want to groom pets, and you should groom pets. And don't get talked into it like, oh, you'll never be able to get Lamborghini if you groom pets. I don't know. I don't think that's really true. But if you want to groom pets, you should do that. If you want to be a dentist, you should do that. We shouldn't take input from other people to the extent that it changes what you want to do. Like if your parents want you to be a doctor, your parents have probably a good reason for guiding you that way, and that's a good profession. But if you really don't want to be a doctor and nothing about it excites you and you just hate it, then somehow you're going to have to work that out and follow something that you really like. Because if you really like it, it won't seem like work. And if you fail, you'll pick yourself up again. And I've had to do that. I've had things that didn't work out, mostly because people took advantage of me. I shouldn't blame it on them. I let people take advantage of me. I wasn't circumspect enough. I was too trusting in some cases. Lost a lot of money on things because I trusted people. But there's so many options today. I think that it's really not an excuse that, oh, I don't know what I want to do.
Well, I think what you touched upon in your own story is being young, but already realizing that you wanted more. And, a lot of young people, I'm just curious about how strong your identity and your persona has to be in order for you to not only be in touch with what you truly are feeling and who you truly are, but then also to take action on it. Because that's kind of a two-pronged approach there, but it's so necessary. So, and with social media being so rampant, I think a lot of people seem to want to assimilate to the crowd or what the majority of others are doing. And I'm sure that was always like that, in life. There's always been some pop culture and some influences outside, but it's just so important to find that inside yourself and say, I'm going to find who I am inside. And all those influences, whether it's your parents or your friends or um, other people, that's okay, but in the end it's my life, right?
Yeah, and I would say that I like encourage you when I talk to teens or young people, I encourage them to really talk to their parents about it. So really, it's kind of on the parents at the same time. With all the social media 24/7, you really have to be on top of with your kids now, what they're doing, what they're seeing, what they're watching, what they're participating in online. Didn't used to always be like that. But the parents, I would say to parents, to be more aware of what it is that your child, like be in tune with your child. Sorry,
No
be in
worries.
child and be able to guide them. Just because your mom was a doctor and you're a doctor doesn't mean your kids want to be a doctor necessarily. And so you're going to have to kind of suss that out, like figure out, should I really push him to be a doctor because I know it's good for him, or I want him to be, or should I be sensitive to the fact that they want to start their own business? And then what I tell young people is, listen, even make a deal with your parents. I want to be a dog groomer. I want to sell information online. I want to be a travel blogger. I want to be an Instagram, whatever. You know what? There's no harm really in failing a little bit. It's okay. It doesn't cost much. I mean, I've been all over. I've been to Singapore and Pakistan. I've been to Europe, and in every case, the number one thing is the same thing all over the world. Everybody wants to be successful. They want to have a happy family. They want to live in a reasonable environment that's safe. They want to have water, in a living condition that's good. And that runs across the world. That's the same thing. And so what I really find out is that, if you go ahead and you want to do something your parents aren't in favor of, how about negotiate with your parents? Let me try this. And look, I'll give it 18 months. I'll give it 2 years. And I'll see if I can make something out of it. And if I can't make something out of it, then I need to take more wisdom from my parents. So I think parents have to be a little bit more in tune with their kids. And it's not in the old days, it was pretty well railroad them off to college or have them go work locally.
That's such great advice because, you know, parents are the main influence in our lives for most of us. And it's so painful when we feel like maybe we are letting our parents down. There's that disappointment factor and the fear of telling them what we truly want. So a lot of children just play along, especially when you become a teen and then a young adult. You just play along into what your parents, you think they want to hear versus telling them the truth. And in a way, that's okay. I don't think that you really have to tell your parents every single little detail, like, am I struggling financially right now? Because maybe next month you'll be doing much better. As long as you have that North Star, right? You know that you're trying. And then that period of time, what you mentioned, like for me, I I've been told by well-meaning people that you have to be profitable from day one. And if you're not 100% profitable, you shouldn't start the business. And I I can tell you right now that the people who've told me this are people who've never run a business, because you and I know that 18 months to 2 years sounds like a really good time frame for me, because in 2 years you can accomplish a lot. But I think the first year it's a lot about the setup, building the relationships, uh, you know, developing your infrastructure, and most importantly, building up your authority in that arena. And sometimes if you were working in an employee capacity before in that thing, then it's easy. It's an easy transition because you kind of just take some of the clients from the old business or the type of clients, and you've already got your reputation. But if you're building something from scratch, it's all about that first year, proving who you are. And then the second year is when you start seeing the payoff. And I think it's really rare when I hear people tell me, oh, I hit profitability right away. And if they did, that's amazing. Let's learn their secrets. Let's invite them for a free lunch so we can get some information, like what tips they had. But usually when you hear those stories, it's rare and it's pure luck, or they're not disclosing the full fact. Like they did get a big boost, like an introduction from a powerful person, who is kind of like bodyguarding them or chaperoning them or sponsoring them in and they don't mention that, but that's what it was. So that brings me to another question: is what did you have in place when you were starting your businesses? Did you seek out, because your own father obviously wasn't the exact role model for a businessman that you wanted to be? Did you seek out other businessmen, and did you have anyone guiding you, or was it just all trial and error?
Is that working for my father was a real oppressive. It was very violent, and so that inspired me that I was going to do whatever it took. And that actually, when you talk to many entrepreneurs that you know that are known, a lot of times it was that they didn't give themselves a plan B. They were going to make something work. So when I had the accounting firm, it was in Toronto, and it was we were the first ones to buy a computer, the second ones in the whole city. That was how long ago it was. And I paid, $30,000 for something that's less powerful than your phone. But we got into electronic accounting, and that got kind of big. And so we were moving along, meeting people, and it was getting me into circles. And we met this guy who was working in Florida, and he wanted to do an investment deal. And so he introduced me to some investors. And believe it or not, he said, "Would you be willing to raise money? There's this guy in Atlantic City named Donald Trump, and we need to raise $20 million for our share of the deal." And I said, "Well, I wasn't interested in building a casino, but what else you got going?" He goes, "Oh, I got this other deal." And so there I was in my young 20s, and I went to Florida to buy this $4 million building, and I only had $50,000 total anyway. And I lost the whole $50,000. I blew the deal, didn't work. I missed the closing date. And I lost $50,000. So I had $5,000 left. How am I going to get my $50,000 back? Well, I followed this formula all through my life. If you don't have any money, buy a piece of property. So I went after a piece of property that was a little over $1 million, about $1.5 million, 1.4 million. And so I talked to the guy who owned it and said, "If I can put up $1 million, will you hold 400,000 as a second mortgage?" He said, "If you find $1 million, I'll give you the 400." And so I went to my investors and said, "I have the 400 if you guys can finance the $1 million." And out of that, I got an under the table commission of $50,000 and restored myself.
Wow.
Because a deal large. And the reason I like larger deals, I have a little video on about raising your financial antenna. If you have antenna that picks up signals, like right now where we're sitting, there's radio signals going through that we're not paying attention through. They're just going through it. But if you tune, you can pick up a channel, and I pick up that money channel. I try to teach people, one of the things I try to teach is how to pick up the money signals. So anytime you're in the middle of a deal, like a broker, if you can get in the middle of the flow, if you have no money, go to a place where there's a lot of money changing hands. If you have no money, go to a city, because there's always something. You can turn in tin cans, you can turn in aluminum cans, you can turn in plastic bottles, you can deliver pizza, you can help somebody change a tire. I mean, there's always something going on when there's things going on. And in a big deal, the bigger the deals I did, when I did $10 million deals, I would get a $100,000 commission, about $96,000 commission back. So that really helped me fuel it. So maybe do bigger deals. The bigger the deal, the more you get back. And that's the more action, the more activities going on in your business, there's more opportunity to pick up those little pieces of extra money that people don't pay attention to. And that's what really started to get me going then and got me really excited to keep going. And your first successes, I wouldn't say it's important to break cash flow even right away. I mean, somehow you have to have a way to do that. But look, nowadays it's so easy. When I started a company on the 911, became a really big company, it cost $400,000 to get started. We had to buy racks and racks of equipment and networking, engineers and everything else. You know, that same thing right now, for what we paid about $200,000 in equipment and networking, you can do for $200. What took us a month to set up, you can do in an afternoon using cloud services like Amazon or Google. This is what young people today, I think they know about it and they can take it, but they don't realize, if there's any value in realizing, that that's not how it used to be. You can do things now at the speed of light. You can start a company in an afternoon. You can set up your social accounts and start tweeting and Facebook and Instagram in an afternoon. You can start getting.
And the cost is really, really minimal. I mean, you can buy domain names like Candy. You know, a trademark starts at $400. You can have your own trademark starting upward, you know, but you know what I mean? It's like so inexpensive now to run your own business.
Used to do marketing, what people used to take millions and 90 days to get any kind of coverage. Well, you just have to plan. I mean, magazine ads used to take 45 days minimum to plan, and then you had to decide, which is unbelievable that we look back on with the new generation coming up. And so I like to encourage them and say, look, you don't even know what you don't know. You don't know how it used to be, and that's okay. But look at what you have in front of you. You can start a business in an afternoon. You can get well known around the world in a week.
You have clearly really good business sense, especially what you talked about, the wealth portion, and that's the heart of any business, you know, is figuring out. I mean, people can spend all kinds of talent and time and effort, but if they don't have a sense of money, then they're just a practitioner. You know, there's an excellent book about business that I'll message you. because I can't recall the author right now, but his book is so amazing because he basically talks about how so many small business owners are really just subject matter experts who thought that they could take a go at trying to make a business out of it, but they operate like practitioners. They don't operate on a business level. They operate in the trenches. You know, they're like the ones shoveling the coal. And you're like, no, you can't shovel the coal. You need to quickly work on the business, not in the business. You need to hire people. You need to set up the infrastructure so that there's a growth factor. What's the exit strategy from day one? What do you want? And whenever I consult people as well, in a life coach capacity, and they tell me, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe I should go into business. You know, nowadays I think there's hardly anyone that doesn't say that to me, because there's always that get rich quick hope, or work for yourself, get away from the toxic boss. But very few people actually understand what it means to run a business. And I always say, whatever skill you're good at, it's not the same as the business sense. The business sense is, and I'm not saying you can't learn it. Some people are naturals like you, but other people can get a business coach and really have a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, somebody who has that business knowledge, who lays it out for them and that steers them well. And I think in the old days, it was often a parent. Like if your father ran a company, then the son was groomed for the company, right? And but now it's, we have more contact, like you and I, we met on the internet, right? So it's crazy, like how you can actually meet the right people who can bring you to the next level, who aren't your family member, right? And business school is actually questionable. I mean, I love MBA, but I wasn't able to get one, and I always thought, oh, that's a big disadvantage. But then I started looking into online MBAs, and I said, here's the curriculum that they're teaching. I know all this stuff, but I know it not from the books. I know it from getting screwed over in the deals that I had to do, going out there and having to present these things, having to negotiate, so I learned it the hard way, what they're teaching in the school. So, you know, there's no excuse not to start your own business, but you have to be prepared mentally, right? Like for the working on the business.
Yeah, I'm not sure that young people even know what that exactly means, how to be prepared mentally. But the fact that you touched, I think you mentioned the resilience. People have to have resilience. I mean, the people see now, they go, "Oh, that's great, man. We were really lucky and all that." I'm like, I was really lucky. A lot of things were lucky. My timing was lucky. I met people, which I can't take credit for how lucky I was in many things. However, you have to have the resilience. I mean, we've had so many things go wrong when people have taken advantage of, when I didn't watch things carefully and things, where the economy crashed. Then my son's first baby died on day 4, and that was really more him than me.
Oh my
And
God.
then he suicide last year, and we lost $400,000 because his crypto passwords, he kept them so secretive, and he took those with him. And so we don't have those, and so we lost a lot of money in that. It's not going to change anything, lifestyle or anything, but it's money you wish you had when you don't. So then we end up having to support, not having, we end up wanting to support his widow, his wife, and the grandchildren. We're supporting them, and other people are too. And so there's these twists and turns that if you're not resilient, or you don't have some well of resiliency that's driving you to keep going, it's driving you to want to be successful, you're going to get derailed by so much as a flat tire. And these things are a lot of these are major auto crashes, but you have to keep going with them. And I don't even know if there's a formula for that. It's just that you have to have you have to have something inside of you that's driving you as a mission. They say passion. I can make a case for saying it has to be passion for your business. It almost has to be a mission. There's a lot of talk about finding your why, and even that's not good enough, because if you find your why, but you don't know the what and the how, you don't have the strategy and the tactics, if you don't get with somebody as a mentor to help you figure that out, you can have a great idea. There's a lot of great ideas that crashed and burned. If you Google failed businesses, you'll find all kinds of things that failed that you said, well, that was a really good idea. I don't know why that failed. It failed because the person running it didn't have the resources, personal resources, not money, but the gumption, the willpower, the deep well of mission. Mission is what drives you, not necessarily passion. Passion can wear out, whether it's in relationships or whether it's a passion for something, superheroes and you get older and you pass that, or baseball cards you pass, things you can be passionate about. But if you have a mission, if your mission is to do something, that I believe indicates it's something that's deep inside of you, and you have to have that mission for your business. When someone's getting to me and I'm talking about starting a business or running their business, they sound wishy-washy on it. I'm thinking they're not, you almost ought to switch right now and get into something that you have down in your DNA, in your marrow of your bones. It's a mission that's going to withstand anything that's going to come against you.
That is so powerful. And I'm so sorry for your loss, Gregory. You've been through so much. I really just, I can't imagine. I don't think any of us can imagine those kind of hardships. But I wanted to ask you, how did you find your mission, and what is your mission?
Well, I have to admit, I think it changed over time. There's almost maybe like a bullseye ring. Like the mission inside was to provide for me and my family in more than adequate ways. So when I knew that was covered, and I had in my mind a certain lifestyle that wasn't necessary, but I wanted for my life, my wife, and my family, and the children that I was going to have, and so on. And then outside of that, to be able to provide for others, donate, and others, and grew up a charity. So when I sold the company, a lot of years ago, 20 years ago, I retired, and then we went to Central America and we started a mission to the indigenous. My wife's a nurse, so it's way out of my line. That's nothing to do with technology. And then we went to a place that didn't have cell phones or internet. I mean, it was like the National Geographic or Discovery Channel. And so we put lots of money, and other people have donated very generously as well. And we became a channel out for 19 years. She's had a clinic that deals with the poorest people that you see like on Discovery Channel. And so that's rewarding to be able to do something like that, knowing that all the extra late nights I worked, the risk I took, the money I borrowed, the people I got involved, somehow everybody made out well. And on top of that was a little icing left over to do for somebody else. And I think that if you have that in your mind when you start, it helps make your mission more crystallized. Another person says, my mission is to make $1 million. That's not really a mission, because what if you reached it? Is your life over? And what if you don't reach it? Is your life over? That's not really a mission. To make $1 million can be a goal, but that's not a mission. A mission has to be, I want to do this because I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to give to others, and I want to teach young people, or I want to start a school or a foundation. I think people should have that when they start out, because it gives them a longer goal. Like, because really in business, it's like a fog. You can only see 3 feet in front of you. So as you go, you see a little bit more, and as you go, you see a little bit more, and then as you go, you see a little bit more. And one day the weather's better, and you can see 9 feet in front of you, but you never really see too far ahead. That's the way it is. And if you don't have I like to say, it's like if you don't know your destination, then you can get lost easily. If I tell you, let's meet at the Empire State Building on August 1st at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's meet in the lobby, and then we'll go up to the Sky Restaurant. That's all I have to tell you. But if I tell you, what state are you in?
I'm in California.
Okay. If I say
far away.
Go here and take Interstate 80, and I tell you the exact directions like Google, what if the bridge is washed out? Now you can't get there. So life isn't about the map. Life is about knowing the destination where you want to go. And then as you go along, Facebook goes down one day and a bridge washes out and something terrible happens in your family, but you still have the destination. We're still going to meet on that day in August at the lobby, and I don't know how you're going to get there. You may have to fly, walk, drive, take a pony. It doesn't really matter. And that's what business is about. You might have to fly, drive, walk, take a pony. I don't know. The bridge might be washed out. But if you know what your destination is going to be, you're going to get there, even if stuff falls apart and Facebook does go down.
Gregory, what you just said is gold. And that's why I'm going to stop there, because I think that everyone needs to let that sink in, to know your destination and not worry so much about the map. Because if you know your destination, you will figure out how to get there.
Right,
Beautiful.
No.
Thank you so much, Gregory. Tell me, just to conclude this interview, what's next for you? I mean, you've done so much that I don't want to put any pressure, like your next new project, but how are you enjoying life? I mean, you sound busy with your family and your philanthropy and all that. Anything new on the horizon?
Well, I'm really active on social media, probably because I've been procrastinating creating a course. I like teaching people, and one way many people have said, why don't you start doing consulting for big corporations? And there's more money in that, but I'm not as concerned about that. What I really like is dealing with the fresher entrepreneurs. I don't necessarily need to deal with 17-year-olds, but someone who started a business, is just starting a business. They have an idea what they want. Maybe they don't. So I'm taking about 20% of my time dealing with people that are getting my new book is called Hatch Your Startup. And it's about how to start a startup. And even if you already started in business, it tells you how to prove a product, how to create new products, how to finance and all that. It's a guide. It's
Oh,
really a
I
guide.
can't wait to read it. You're going to have to share with me that link once it comes out, or when you have a pre-order link, because I love reading.
And I'm basically, you can anchor into me on my Facebook. Just my name, Gregory.Giagnocavo on Facebook. And it's a very strange spelling. There's only about 6 of us on Facebook with that last name. So you can find me pretty easily. And from there, you can find out what I'm all about.
Thank you so much again, Gregory, for being on my show. And I wish you all the best. You clearly have done an amazing, and anyone who wants to know about small business should definitely check out your book, and most importantly, follow you on social media, because I've been following you on Facebook and you do post a lot of valuable information just through your social media handles.
Thank you. Well, it's
Thank
a
you.